I started. I started. Now you can. Me first. Are you on?
Hello. Yes, we're recording.
Right. 1st of August. First of all, how the hell did that happen? It's my wedding anniversary on Wednesday. Can't remember how many years. I think it's about 26 years we've actually been married and together for 10 years longer than that. So I'm expecting something nice.
You don't look old enough.
No, exactly. You see, right answer. But
A pinch,
1st of August.
a pinch and a punch for the start of the month.
White rabbits we're meant to follow it with, but can we do the white rabbits?
You can't say white rabbits. They'll
can't say anything, can we? I love white rabbits. I
So do
absolutely love, and if I had a white rabbit outfit now, I would be wearing it because it's just what I feel I need. So before we get into one of our chats today, we've got to be very careful today because BoobTube are doing their usual thing, and I notice you're on another strike, aren't you? You naughty boy.
I am a naughty boy. He's a very naughty boy. That's how they took my first channel down. They just picked random things from the past and said, "You struck for this, struck for that, struck for that." Oh, you're gone.
Me didn't even tell me, just took it.
Yeah, well, that's all part of the war.
Wankers.
Yeah,
that's the only swear words we're allowed to use today. Oh, I dropped one of my crystals. That's interesting. But so how? Apart from that, and everyone sign up to Mark and my newsletter list because it's really essential. You know how to get hold of us in times of need. I'm so behind loading to my BitChute and Rumble. I need to take a week off and just do it all. It just takes so long, doesn't it?
Hard. Oh, Bumble and Bumble. I should call it Bumble. Bumble and ShitShoot are, you know, they're really a pain in the ass to use. But you know, we've got.
I love them for what they do, and they allow us to be on there and share our message. So I'm internally grateful, and I have no comprehension of how you would build and fund one of these things. Is that a ghost?
No, it's my son.
Child. So we're not moaning about you, BitChute and Rumble, but my goodness, I think I've decided clones are a good thing because I need to clone myself, Mark, because it's just not enough hours in the day.
Well, you've probably already been cloned in an underground base somewhere.
Probably have, we won't go into that. So, and before we start into, we've got a few interesting topics to start today. How are you in general?
I'm very well. It's been the last 3 or 4 months have been challenging on a spiritual level, but one of my twins, against my wishes, ended up in a hospital last week because he had a bizarre accident on camp where he was playing, you know, that dodgeball.
Yeah.
They throw the balls at each other. He had his hand in front of his mouth and the ball hit his hand and went into his tooth. Then his tooth broke and went into his hand and infected his hand. Anyway, he ended up in hospital. So I had to go and see him. And I was
supposed to go and see him.
I couldn't not go and see him. And I wanted to get him out. And my God, it was like descending into hell. And you know, the security guard, everybody was, "Where's your mask? Where's your mask?" I was like, "I don't need to wear a mask. What are you talking about? I'm not wearing a mask. There's no legal requirement for me to." And then I had, with the security guy, I said, "I'm going to be careful what I say because this is going on your YouTube." But I said, "That's not real, blah, blah, blah." He said, "I've had it 3 times. I said, "No, you haven't. You've had the flu, blah, blah, blah." And he was, "Well, you're entitled to your opinion." And I was like, "Well, it's actually, meanwhile, the adrenaline is going crazy and I'm ready to punch anybody, although I didn't. And then oh God, and then I had to go upstairs. The energy of the place was, and I think that's why this happened, because I think I needed to go and experience that to realize this is still going on. And for God's sake, don't ever go into one of those buildings. All the people in there are demonically possessed. And I had Jesus with me and Archangel Michael, and I was like cutting through it, but it was like an industrial cutting machine in granite. It was just deeply dark and horrible. But I have to say, my subscribers to my Telegram channel, hundreds of them sent healing and protection and everything else, and that was palpable. And I really, really appreciate that. Everybody that did that, thank you very much. And he's on the mend and he's good. But you know, I've got everything in the kitchen here for infections, everything that you could possibly need. But unfortunately, not everybody around my son understands that. So I was in a bit of a tricky position, and it kind of knocked me off course for a couple of days energetically. So I've had to regroup myself, and here I am. And then I went, and then YouTube go, "Oh, you've been struck again." I just got off it, like the last strike, for a day, and then they struck again. And that's exactly what they did last time. But I still hold firm I know the good guys are in control of everything. So I know this is all chess moves, and you know, it's more for people to get off. You know, it's funny when you're off YouTube, people say, "Oh, I've missed you," and even though you put out tons of messages, well, I'm on Rumble, I'm a BitChute, I'm on Telegram, I've got the email. I'm even this morning I put up, say, please sign up to my email list, and somebody said, "How do I sign up to your email list?" And like, I say it in every single video.
Honestly, I'm feeling arsey today. I think there's so much gold in what you've just said there that links into what I wanted to chat to you about today and chat to the listeners about, because it really makes me laugh. Whether we like it or not, we have to hold our hands up and say we either believe that we create our own reality or we don't. We can't pick and choose which bits of our reality we change. So you've had that challenge last week, and you just said it there, you know, some stuff needed to be shown to you. I've had various challenges to me over the last, probably actually over the last month, that I haven't talked about much, because I've been keeping mum deliberately because of some of the stuff I want to talk about, because I've been thinking, right, okay, I've been with my friend Jamie Soleil and Bryce Johnson Summers reading through the Fifth Agreements things, and there's so much gold in there. And I know you can take a lot of these books and advice, and I heard some of one of your other chats saying about a lot of these sort of books and things, but I really am a strong believer of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But when these things happen to us, once you know what you know at the stage that you know it at, you have to accept that we create our own reality. And what I want to say to the users is we're all going through this. You know, we're all going to have these curveballs chucked at us at different things, or more importantly, we've all attracted them at different times. And, you know, we're all going through it. So it's powerful, isn't it? It's really powerful when you look at that and you start thinking, okay, why is this showing up for me?
Well, we're all one consciousness. We're all fractals of God. So we're all doing this to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's fine. Everything's exactly as it's meant to be, because every one of these challenges is deliberately put there by your higher self in order for you to get where you need to get to. And that's what it's about. And it's all about, I always come back to the same image. There was a beautiful video about 3 or 4, I think it's called I Goat. And it's Jesus stood on a boat going through this terrible storm and meteorites and waves crashing, and he's just totally zen all the way through it. And that's what I think we're all having to learn how to do that, because if we're reacting all the time, and all this reaction and division is, I think it's quite, I mean, I was going to say I think it's hilarious, but only because I've got that kind of sense of humor. It's not always hilarious for people going through it. And you know, I know I got put through an online hate campaign in my marketing career about 12, 13 years ago, and what, you know, and it nearly destroyed me. And but it made me strong enough to be here now and do what I've been doing. And I'm really grateful for that experience, because at the time it was hell. You know, it was all lies being spread about me by some psychopathic ex-employee who was pissed off that he, you know, didn't get a chunk of the company that he wanted for no reason. And I'm really glad I went through that. And everything, you know, and I learned this phrase, everything's exactly as it's meant to be, maybe 10 years ago. And I used to say it to myself in the shower, even when I was having really bad times. And it was really hard for me to believe and understand, but I know it to be true, and it's ancient wisdom, and that's what I keep coming back to, and that's why it's good that you sit back and keep mum about things. My nan used to say, "Least said, quickest mended." You know?
Well, I'll say this is a big progression for me, because I've
it is.
sit back and don't say it. Normally, I'm Mrs. Gobby.
Yeah,
and I say it because I'm the type of person that loves having, I prefer to call them passionate conversations. Other people might choose to call them other things, and I love that. And I've just, over the last, there's been a lot of things that have happened that I'm just sitting back and observing. And it's absolutely fascinating, but I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's not easy, just like you found last week, not to get involved. And this is why we have these conversations on YouTube. It's a bit like being on reality TV or us counselling.
Oh, no, it's a soap opera. The whole thing's a soap opera.
Like a soap opera, because it really is. And what makes me laugh is I find the delusion of humans. You know, I listen to, okay, I'm going to put my hand up here and get absolutely probably slated.
Do you need to go to the toilet?
No, I wouldn't ask you.
Lisa.
But but so I listened to one of the Wim Hof interviews a few weeks ago with Cesar Millan. Now, Cesar Millan is a very controversial dog trainer. People will love him or hate him, as Marmite. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that today because we could spend the whole show on that. But what he did say is something that absolutely struck a chord with me so much that it's just gone into every single bit of my thought process since then, which was humans are the only species that follow unstable leaders. And I've been thinking about this because I think, you and I and everyone else, we're always talking about what's happening in our individual lives is always a reflection of what's going on at a macro level, because as you just said, we are all created, we are all connected, we are all fractals of God, we're all created, linked through the divine matrix, whatever you want to call it. And it's so funny because I can see that happening at every single level. When you're talking about division, when you're talking about people falling out with people, about being attached to a particular point of view, about, as I always say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can love someone and then they say one thing that you disagree with, and suddenly that's it.
Boom,
They're gone. They're on the rubbish heap. And it's absolutely fascinating when you look at this human need to follow where this connection, there's a big difference between wanting to be connected and following delusional leaders, or whatever that level might be. Do you think?
Yeah, well, years ago, I used to, I remember I realized like how embarrassing, if the aliens came down and we say, take me to your leader, it'd be like, oh, I'm a bit embarrassed actually, because our leaders are real fuckwits. So I've always felt like that. But, I've been saying since the beginning, there are no gurus. You are the guru. You are the guru because you've got all the answers in here. And I think it's all part of God's plan. I've repeated this many, many times. The vision I got of this huge, multi-dimensional, multi-billion piece chessboard, and we're all pieces on it, and everything's being moved around precisely as is required. And if we put too much store into anyone, then it's our own weakness. Because, I say to my kids, don't trust anything or anybody says, including this, because, I'm your dad and I'm the person who's going to stand up for you more than anybody in the world and love you more than anybody in the world. But you've got to find your own way. And if we get to, nobody should be married to any idea, and we should all be able to coexist, exploring these ideas together. And, you and I definitely don't agree on a certain few things. So what? Exactly. We're on the same team and we're heading towards the same thing. And maybe you're going down one road and I'm going down the other road. And at some point we're going to find out, that was the medium. And that was because we're exploring extreme things, or in the eyes of some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, intellectual exploration and physical exploration, following that up is an extremely important thing, but it's your own journey. And, people fighting amongst each other or attacking each other, it's actually a really good thing in a weird way, because it brings up your reaction, because how you react to things is the key, and we're all taught to be reactionary by the system and everything else. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to sit back and then just find that sense of peace in the middle of the storm, because that's what this is. It's a storm. It's a big emotional, spiritual mishmash of information at the moment, and we're all trying to navigate our way through it. But I think ultimately, I'm still the apocalyptimist. I know in my deep down that this is all good, and it's all designed to get us to a point where we all go, I get it.
Absolutely. And that's all going to come at different places. And as you found out last week, because you had different members of the family wanting to make completely different decisions, as I found out a lot in certain things that have happened over the last week, different people having completely different viewpoints about how things should be handled, or what the situation actually was. Whether we like it or not, we're all just living our own reality, and we're seeing things through our own individual lens. So no one else will ever see things exactly how you do. No one else will ever have the same experience of something. You can both think that you're doing exactly the same thing each day, and you won't be, because you'll be putting your own energy into it, your own thoughts, your own experiences, which will then, by the very nature of it, changing the outcome. So I don't know even where we go with this, because I sit there and I think, well, why the fuck am I doing these discussions then? Because I'm sharing it out loud in terms of a fact that saying, guys, all of us are going to be on that different stage. And I suppose one thing that's become apparent to me over the last sort of month or so is the language that people use. There's still so much shaming going on without the people using it even knowing it, and all of us do it. I will do it, you'll do it, you know. So but it's so powerful, because the vibration of that and what we're putting out there, you know, every little micro judgment is changing the reality for everyone.
Yeah, I'm just making some notes here because I don't want to forget. You know, this concept of being on timelines that are collapsing is part of it, I think. We've been on multiple different timelines and things have been collapsing into one good timeline. I think that's part of it. I think also we've got to remember that we are multidimensional beings, and that this war is being raged on multiple levels, and people are getting a lot of channelers are getting information from different timelines and different dimensions on different timelines. So you've got all this kind of, you know, people might say it's misinformation or disinformation, or maybe all the information is true.
Exactly.
But because these timelines are merging, they're all coming into a melting pot. And, you know, one person's version of reality may be from a different timeline. And that's where or from a different level of being. I mean, one of the things I've been careful to do recently is when I'm calling in help from angels and spirits guides, I'm asking for the highest iteration, you know, of them, because there are multiple iterations and levels of all these beings, including us, you know. And calling in on your own God self frequencies, one of the things Ian Welch I've learned from Ian Welch, because there's a version of you at some point, and I can't even say far in the future because everything is existing at the same time, which is God, has God status. So why not call on that instead of, you know, you from the fifth dimension? Because that's, you know, it's like a fast track to that. And I'm similar to you, that I never put anybody down. I really try not to. And it is weird because you kind of get pulled into like, oh, you've got to be publicly seen to supporting this person or that person. I mean, over the last 2 years, I've had people say, you can't speak to this person, you can't speak to that person, you can't, they've gone to the dark side. I've been accused of having gone to the dark side, right? Online. And it's like, what? No, that's not happened, but I've been accused of it. And then people then have to look at me and go, is Mark on the dark side? Has he been taken over by black goo? And a lot of this is like,
hold on, I want to pick you up on that. Okay, so when that happened, just, I know it's difficult because your today son has moved through lots of emotions to when you first saw that, but when that happened, what was the overriding feeling in yourself? You know, how did you want to react to that?
oh, well, I knew it wasn't true, so I didn't react to it.
Okay, fine. Thank you, hallelujah. And I saw that happen, and I saw that you genuinely didn't react. And I'm not talking about whether the person believes they're true, because we all believe we're right. We all believe that our reality is right. But the difference is, you know, if a lot of what's been coming out recently has been, it's only triggering to the people if that someone is challenging your belief. And if they're challenging your belief and it's having that much of a reaction in you, there's a lesson. So some of the things that have been said about various people on public platforms recently, I did a test. I said to my children, I said, look, I read out the exact comments and I said, if someone had said this about me, how would it make you feel? And they just wet themselves laughing. They were like, it's just ridiculous. It wouldn't make me feel anything. I just think, what nutters. However, if they'd have said something that my children knew was true or very close to the mark, they would probably react very differently, and so would I. So if someone was about to release one of my many dark secrets, that's why I'm not famous, because, you know, it's all going to come out. Me and Danielle, you know, but
I have no idea what you meant just then.
That's my Daniel Craig joke.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm making jokes about, you know, all my secrets about Daniel Craig. It's a joke. Don't sue me, Daniel. It's a fantasy. But you know, if this is the point, this is the message that all of us keep making. We've all got triggers. All of us have got triggers, but there are triggers, and you can say exactly the same to someone else and it doesn't trigger them at all. So I think almost people can't win anymore because everything's being done on a public platform. In one respect, people want honest opinions, and if they're asked direct questions, they want someone to give an honest answer. But if they give an honest answer, if the answer is not what the person listening wanted to hear, then they're absolutely slated. So just don't listen. You know, if you can't, if you're buggered, if you're buggered, if you don't,
just turn it off. I mean, that's
turn it off.
That's what I do. If I'm like, I don't want to listen to somebody, I just stop listening to them. I don't go, blah, 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 blah. I just stop listening to them. It's like, I've said this many times, you know, if I get junk mail, I just put it in the recycling bin. I don't write to the people sending me and say, stop sending me junk mail. There's no point. It's like the adverts on TV. I don't watch TV.
Exactly.
Don't moan about it. Just stop engaging with it.
So the point of us having this conversation, from my perspective, is to show that we have all got triggers. Mark and I have shared some of ours with you just already today. We're all going to be triggered by certain situations, but it's then how you deal with it. I'm going to bring up the women's football this weekend. Lionesses. But it was really interesting to watch. It was such a tense match. The referee was effing awful. But the difference in how you respond to those situations really sort of brings about a different reality. And I know you can say, people can say sports trivial if it's trivial for you, but it was just so amazing to see, one, the whole atmosphere of that place. So I hate big crowds. There were 87,000 or whatever. It was a complete sellout. And the atmosphere, Mark, was absolutely amazing. There was no litter dropped that I saw at all. I've never seen a stadium so clean. There were families there. There was every age, sex, type of person you could possibly imagine. Everyone was chatting to each other. So you can, and yet my husband and some of the kids have been to a men's football match, and this isn't a man-woman thing. It's just saying exactly the same stadium, the same sort of event, but a completely different scenario. So it's not the scenario itself, it's how you choose to react to it and how everyone's energy builds on each other. So if you go with a really positive, loving energy, that's the interactions you're going to attract into your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that with sports, I mean, you know, men's football matches have always been attracted certain types, but and there's a very different feeling when you go to a rugby match or a cricket match. English cricket matches are amazing. It's just a big party and it's all ages and families, the same sort of thing. So that's that's a good, it sounds like it was a good experience. But I think our entire lives are just full of initiations. And tests. It's everything's an initiation, everything's a test. And once you see it like that and you observe yourself in that situation rather than reacting, then you start to ascend and develop. And I see all these things as gifts, really. And, I do know how hard it is when you are faced with people saying things about you that are not true. Yeah. I know that is not easy, but so what? C'est la vie. People, if you know it's not true, then why worry about it? It's not.
And that's a level of enlightenment, isn't it? Because it's human nature. We are sensitive souls, and even like, as you said, the experience you went through last week with your son, that so many people will identify with. So many people have had loved ones, in hospitals, having medical treatments, and they felt so powerless. And that feeling that you can't sort everything is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a real,
really challenging, isn't it?
I've had loads of my power taken away right now, and it's like, how am I going to cope with it?
Yeah.
How am I going to deal with it? And I've countless stories. I mean, I lost my own grandfather during this whole thing because of all of this, words that I can't say. But we've all been touched by this, and we're all in it together. And they use that phrase to make us do what they want, but. We are all in it together, and we are one consciousness. And I think all these things are lessons and things that we can learn. But, I think one of the other things we're learning through this process is that we're not competing with each other. It's one of the things I teach people in my monetized course. You're not competing with anybody. Throughout my business, a career advising, giving business advice and marketing advice, people have come to me and said, I want to set up this business and this is the branding. And I said, forget the branding. You're going up against multi-million-pound corporations. Why would you try and recreate the same kind of branding they've got? Just be you, because you are individual, unique. You are the brand, you know, and therefore you don't have to spend tons of money on getting your logos done and blah, you know, before you've even started making money, because that's where everybody goes wrong, because they're all thinking sequentially instead of emotionally. And what I mean by that is, like, sequential logic versus emotional logic is the way that we tell stories. We tell stories emotionally.
Absolutely.
We tell jokes emotionally, and that's how they work, you know. But we tell stories sequentially because we're taught to tell them sequentially, and with a level of kind of perfection that slows everybody down. And this is all part of the education system, deliberately designed to slow people down and stop people succeeding in business or stuff like that. And we embed a lack of belief in their abilities, people's abilities. You know, there's a really interesting, I'll just tell the emotional sequential thing, because it's quite, for anybody watching just wants to nail that on. I went to the pub, I had a few beers, I slipped on a banana skin, and now my backside hurts. That's the sequential version. Whereas the emotional version is, my ass is killing me because I had a skin fall down the pub and slipped on a banana skin. You know, one's funny, one isn't. And that's what we engage with and connect with. And it's all about connect. Ian Forster said in the 19th century about theatre, only connect. And everything's about emotional connection. And I feel like I've just gone down a cul-de-sac because I can't remember what the original question was now.
Nor can I, but it is really important that it's all about emotional connection. And I think that links round perfectly to about why humans follow such unstable leaders, because they're so searching for that emotional connection, because they've often lost it. We've all lost it with ourselves. And, you know, one of the things that's been massively triggering me over the last few weeks has been hearing so much language still going on, and this is my trigger, by the way, because it probably won't trigger anyone else listening, is about they've done this to us, they've done that. And I'm so sick of victim mentality, because actually we can say the schools have done this, we can say they've done that, but I've got multiple degrees. I'm not brainwashed. I never was brainwashed. I always answered to the lecturers. And I was sitting next to other people that had a completely different reaction to that experience. And I can always remember when my children went to school, and like one of my best friends had a son in the same class as my son. And my son at this particular school, not at all his schools, had a wonderful time there, loved it, got on brilliantly, really enjoyed it, was really happy. I, as a parent, was really happy with all aspects of it. And my best friend's son was in the same class and hated it and thought that it was all the school's fault and everything like this. But, you know, neither of us were right or wrong. Our realities were just different based on what was happening to us. But if you'd have been speaking to prospective parents and heard my side of the story, you wouldn't have believed how different it was for their side of the story. But we were just recounting our own experiences. And we're also desperate for that connection, that when it breaks in, or perhaps when our expectations aren't met from that connection, it really hits hard.
Yeah, well, it's horses for courses.
Yeah,
which you know all about. But I think this is
horses.
You got lots of horses and courses. I think what I was leading up to was about the idea of competing, right? I don't compete with you. I support you, right? I don't see you as competition. I don't see anybody doing this as competition. Good luck to everybody. That's what I think, because we're all fulfilling a purpose. We're all doing our bit. We're all on the same team. If we're on the same team, you know, just work together. I think that's what this is all about, working together. And good luck. If somebody's really successful at something, I'm really happy for them. You know, I've always been successful because I just have that. I don't care about competition. You know, if somebody has a go at me, fine, leave them to it. They're just often they're really showing themselves up, you know, depending upon what they're saying and the viewpoint. And the other thing, I'm old enough to know that the truth always comes out in the wash anyway.
It does.
And all you've got to do is sit back and wait for that time to come, or just know that's going to come at some point, and don't worry about it in the meantime, and just focus on what you're doing. But I think this all comes down to what you're saying about leadership is really interesting. And who comes to mind? Donald Trump, right? Now, you know, people say, you know, he's an egomaniac. I disagree with that. They talk about the squeezing women's private parts stuff. So what? You know, I think we were given a leader that was imperfect. and deliberately so. But an amazing leader who was human, right? Who's the first time we've had a leader.
Was it?
Well,
I won't go into
well,
that. That was a joke, but it's
no. Maybe
yeah,
I know he's Lyran and all of that, but
yeah.
but more human than any leader we've ever had, because every leader we've ever had has basically been a reptilian, MK Ultra, SRA clone, or work demonically possessed, whatever. But I think there's a lot of what people have to realize is that a lot of people doing this kind of competitive or negative things, it's not necessarily demonic. It's more a case of people showing up the fact that they've still got their own dark side to work through. They've got their own shadow work to finish. They haven't finished their shadow work. It's all about doing the internal work, as we know. And and what we're seeing externally is a representation of what's going on with us en masse internally. And that's why I'm okay with it. I'm saying that, if anybody's watching this who's been at the butt end of somebody saying things against them that they know isn't true, then I do also empathize with you, because I know what that's like, and it isn't fun. But it'll pass. It always passes. And if you stay steadfast to your own truth of yourself, that will come out in the wash. The same as somebody who's been deliberately horrible or misinformation or is a infiltrator or whatever. But and people just love to speculate about this so much that then it just creates all this noise on the internet, and that's the thing I disengage from.
But it's not surprising it's all happening, is it, Mark? Because everyone who's been talking on these channels has been slating all, I'm not going to say all their names, but all the stuff that we're saying, and we're projecting that everyone who's in Hollywood has been up to this, everyone who's a magician is up to this. I've heard it said so many times, everyone who's a politician is this, everyone who worked in that hospital you went in was not evil. It's my belief. You might feel differently.
No, I agree with you.
It is. And the thing is, it's so easy for us to lump it together. And the thing is, when we're putting messages like that, sometimes people have to do it because they've only got a limited amount of time or to get a message across. So you oversimplify things. It's like when you're teaching maths to an 8-year-old, you don't teach it the same way as you do to an 18-year-old. Because sometimes you simplify things. When you're doing biology, you learn things when you're 10, and then when you start doing degree level biology, you get told, well, that wasn't really true. We just made it simple. So it was a part truth and there was a reason for it. And that's why I've got my friend Liz's t-shirt in. The more I learn, the less I know, because I love it. I'm really happy with that now. I'm so happy to realize every day I know less and less, because it takes the pressure off yourself. We don't need to learn all these things. And when people are reacting through pain or whatever, it is a bit of a tricky one, because we say we want people to speak their truth, but then we don't like it when they do. And I just think I haven't got an answer to that at all. I just think it's a projection. We've all been talking about these awful things that have been happening and lumping a lot of people in the same bush. So it's no wonder that it starts to come back around in some respects.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I said, I didn't mean necessarily every leader ever, but
no, I know, but this is what they do, don't they? I mean, God help anyone who's a politician or a doctor.
We've always been, we're more polarized now than we've ever been, and it's all the duality and the black white and the night day. So you're either this side or you're that side, and they've been pushing that for. This is what all these Soros agendas are all about, lumping people into black and white. But people do get tricked. I mean, you and I, the thing we've got in common, I think, is that we've both had varied lives, and we're explorers, and we're intellectually insatiable about what's going on in the world. So therefore, we interview loads of people and talk about all sorts of stuff, because everything's valid. Everything's got something valid in it, and we're looking for those nuggets of gold. You said it earlier, gold in that book. I agree. And I did say in that chat when I was talking about the publishing companies that they do publish really good stuff in the middle of, because that's how the Kabbalah has always done everything. They'll put a piece of truth surrounded by a lie to give the lie the credibility, because something's true. And this is why discernment is the big key word at the moment. But we're also people saying don't have gurus, but we're also teachers. I mean, you know a hell of a lot about animals and nutrition and tons of biology and tons of stuff. I know a lot about business and marketing. So we've both got courses out where we are teachers. And in my course last year, I know about 700 people do that course so far. And it's always amazing because the more you teach, the more you learn as well. And, but vast majority of people that did that course have really appreciated it and said it's life-changing and given them so much more than just the course material. But some people got triggered by it because I bring up concepts in that course that trigger some people. And, and one woman who was, I thought was really nice, and she was really positive at the beginning, and then she disappeared. You've got hundreds of people on the course. I noticed she disappeared. So I sent her an email saying, are you okay? Where have you gone? And she just said, yeah, I'm fine. But then she sent me back a video that was like an hour and a half trying to explain how I triggered her in this course. And I was like, I haven't got an hour and a half to watch your video. I'm really sorry. I just haven't. It's hard enough reading all the comment. Thousands of emails a week. There's no time to scratch your ass if you're doing that, right? So it's just really, this happens when you're doing this sort of thing, is people get offended if you don't spend 3 hours responding to their hour and a half video. And I just didn't have time. So she started going on YouTube, slagging me off, slagging the course off.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Remember exactly.
Like what? WTF?
Yeah.
I'm giving everything I've got. Everything I've got is going into doing this stuff. And the vast majority of it has worked. Have I got everything right? No. Do I know everything? No. But I know a lot, and I'm a good communicator, and I'm here to help. But you can't please everybody all the time.
And I think that's a really important message for everyone, because people are still having such a tough time with family members, with employees, with friends groups, whatever it is, because you are right, the opinions are getting more and more polarized, in terms of which camp you're sitting in, and I can see it with the questions that people are sending me through for certain guests that I'm having, and the questions are going. And some of them I'm just thinking, I'm just not answering that. I'm not going there. I'm not going to ask that question because energetically it doesn't align with me at all. Not that I only want my questions answered, but if I feel it's going to pull everyone down rather than up, because going back to what you were saying about your son, it's really, really important for us to keep being reminded, every single one of us, Mark and I included, that we cannot, live other people's lives for them. We're both parents. Lots of people watching this were parents. It's really hard because your role as a parent is to nurture, protect, grow, provide, the best you possibly can for your children. But equally, we all know that they're individual beings with their own life journeys as well. And getting that balance is really, really challenging. And then you've got that with every other relationship in your life as well. And we all want the best for our loved ones, but actually we don't know that what we want for them is actually the best for them.
No, I mean, I think our job is to hold space for them, nurture them, to be there for them, and for each other. I think that's kind of the job that we're doing, is just holding I don't like the term safe space, but holding space, as in allowing people to be who they are without judgment and without anything else. And that's quite a skill actually in and of itself. But yeah, learning how to not react is critical. And that doesn't mean that you don't stand up for your rights. That doesn't mean to say
absolutely.
You've got to do it calmly. I mean, I was talking to a friend this morning about a court case that she's involved with, and she went into court, and she said, and then very calmly and politely, I said, there's no joinder and there's no contract and blah blah blah, and that's how you got to do it. That's called standing in your power by understanding what your rights are, and then actively doing that in a real life situation. And that's a very different thing to saying, it's not that you shouldn't react, it's how you react.
Absolutely.
And you should always come from a place of where the frequency is exactly where it should be, and you're grounded, and and the only times I've ever been attacked during the last 2 years in real life have been where I wasn't grounded. I remember I was driving to the protest in Dublin, and I stopped off in a garage to get some food or whatever. And that's when an old man screamed at me. And I was like, whoa, really shocked, because I wasn't aligned. I wasn't, I was discombobulated. And that's what I think we're going to focus on, is just staying staying zen or getting zen and then staying there as much as you can.
Exactly. So let's go through some of our top tips for doing that.
Well, I know you're going to say go for a walk with a horse, which is absolutely. But this morning, Midnight was on my lap, and she always comes to me when she well, apart from when she's hungry, she comes when she just feels the need to just ground me down a little bit. So yeah, the animals are I beat you to that one. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. But you know, barefoot. I mean, I'm sat here barefoot on my grounding mat. You know, this is grounding me. I've got the grounding stuff on the bed. I've got the lawn outside. I love standing on the lawn barefoot. Your water. Make sure you've got the best possible water you can drink, which I've got. Just take a swig. Food, but you know, we've got different views on that. But whatever resonates with you. Walking in the woods always calms me down.
Always.
That's why the Japanese call it forest bathing, because you're bathing in the energy of the trees, and I'm very lucky to have. I mean, you've got amazing woods near you, and I have here as well. There's a huge park here with a forest there, and it's if ever I feel out of sorts, I just go down there and go for a walk. And an hour later, I'm a different person.
Oh, completely. So am I. I mean, I spend so much of my time walking, and I really empathize, actually. I had some energetic out of alignment, so I went to see my craniosacral therapist friend, and she put me right. And it was really fascinating because even though I've got all these tools in my toolkit, I still really needed this external help to shift some things, because like Bryce and I always talk about, you know, we've all got our blockages, whether they're physical blockages, energetic blockages, whatever, where you need that helping hand. And so that made a huge difference to me. And the other thing I would add to that is breathing, because, you know, we can get a lot of stick for talking about things that people have to spend money on. There's so much you can do that costs you nothing. You know, we've spoken about before, we're both massive fans of the cold showers, the cold bathing, the breathing exercises. There's so many different types of breathing that you can do that will resonate. They all do different things, you know, so some are to put more energy into you, some are to open up your pineal gland, your third eye, some are to calm you down, some are to balance heart-brain coherence, you name it, there's something for everything. But the heart-brain coherence side of things is just so important. And just so, I was doing it at the football yesterday. It's I got that last goal.
I was going to say, was it you?
me and my cat Daisy.
You send energy to the striker at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a joke, everyone, but I was doing my breathing and putting it towards.
It might be true.
It might be. Who
You're
knows?
powerful.
But yeah, I just think there's so much for everyone, and just looking and doing something that resonates with you. But the main thing is doing something.
Yeah.
Doing something, just picking something and actually taking action on it, rather than just saying you're going to, is so important.
Well, this has been a theme from a lot of conversations I've had in the last few weeks, which is, you know, I'm supporting lots of different things behind the scenes, and I'm, you know, and not everything that I'm supporting is 100% aligned with me, but I'm removing my ego because it's about the intention. You know, I've said for quite a long time, and I think I'm right on this, that what God is waiting for is for people to stand in their power and realize their true power. And it doesn't mean you turn into Thor and you're a thunder god. It just means that you are standing in your power. You know, all of this is about, have you got a connection to your maker, and do you realize that you have free will, and that you don't have to be conned with fake contracts and giving your consent to everybody that asks for it. So the big message for me this year is, you know, earlier in the year was all about boundaries, and now it's about intention and standing in your power. And if that's it, you know, and it's actually quite simple. But you know, like you said, people have all these blockages. That's why we talk about healing devices and modalities and books and, you know, all these things, because all the information's out there. It's always been out there. It's just like uncovering it and finding people that know more than you, and then bringing that information in, getting those golden nuggets, and then going on to the next one, then the next one, and not being offended or upset if some of them start falling out with each other, or, you know, disagree with each other, because just wait for that to pass, because it will.
Exactly. This too shall pass, as they say. So yeah, no, it's really important. And I think we've got to all stand up to the plate now and just take a really good look at ourselves, every single one of us, Mark and I included, and sort of say, what are we putting out there energetically? What actions are we taking for ourselves to actually make these shifts? Because, you know, we can't keep having the same questions coming up again. When's it going to happen? It's only going to happen when we make it happen. You know, and I just think 2 years down the line, 2.5 years down the line, there's not going to be a person here that hasn't lost loved ones in the process. You know, okay, what else is it going to happen? We all know the universe is going to keep kicking butt until we get the message.
Yeah, you know, go and watch Groundhog Day. There's a
Mhm.
documentary if you ever saw one. You know, this is a bit like Groundhog Day. It's like, you know, what Bill Murray goes through in that film is he does everything to get this girl into bed, and then eventually realizes that he's just got to become a good person, and that's what happens. That's what life is. I think that's what I mean by all these initiation ceremonies, and it feels like you're trapped in a loop.
Yeah.
Another day, because the system's designed it that way. You work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then you have the weekends, and it's like you're trained, and that's not how we're supposed to live. But that's the Groundhog Day aspect to this life. It's also like that in my experiences with ayahuasca, very similar. It's like the message gets repeated and repeated until you finally get it, and you go, and then you have a realization. You're one step closer to enlightenment, and then you move on to the next message, and then it's the next message, and that's how I think God's designed this whole thing. It's just and you chose it as well. You chose to go through those lessons, and it's deliberately designed to be not easy, so that you actually learn the lessons. And I think that's on a micro level and on a macro level. But we have the ability to control all the atoms in our body, in our food. You know, we can heal people with our minds. That's, you know, that's true.
Absolutely, 100% true.
You know, it is right, but we've it's not quite realized it yet. And I think that's just why this is a spiritual quarantine period, so that enough people get to the point of Zen, if you like, or realization of these. You don't have to realize everything, but to a point of consciousness where, because everybody's consciousness rising does affect everybody else, like a petri dish in a biology class. You introduce a new strain of something, and then suddenly it's like, and then the whole jar. And that's what I think. I've been saying that for 2 years. I think that's what's going to happen, and it feels like we're very close to that. But there's resistance on the way, because without resistance, you don't get growth.
Completely. And those dominoes, you know, were being pushed over, and some bastard keeps going, putting them back up. Stop it.
Stop it.
It's so important. We are so all connected. I mean, we only need to see what it feels like when you are surrounded by an amazing atmosphere to see the different way everything you view in life happens. So yeah, I think, you know, there's loads of tips there. I think it's the same old message, the same old wheel. It's down to us as individuals, you know, enjoy the challenges that come up. They are only your challenges. Otherwise, everyone would have the same experience with school. Everyone would have the same experience with the medical establishment. Everyone would be in a 9-to-5 job. We know masses of people dumped that ages ago, long before any of us started talking about it. So once we realize that it is our choice, our lesson, our message, then it gets easier, I think, doesn't it?
Well, Wayne Dwyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And whatever anybody thinks about Wayne, I got that. I think that's a very powerful statement. And you've just got to start looking at things a bit sideways and go, and it's just noise, you know, and go, okay, that's what it is. I'm gonna go for a walk.
It can do that tiny shift to change the way you look at things. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to publish a book. You don't have to jack your jaw in. You just need to shift something. So have fun playing with it.
Yeah, and understand you are the guru that you're looking for. And if there's anything in your life that's not serving you, remove it. I did that this morning. I stopped a project this morning. I had total clarity this morning. I've had a lovely morning of complete clarity after having quite a fuzzy head for a week. And I just went, do you know what? This project that I'm trying to get together, I'm just going to cancel it. It's wonderful.
Brilliant.
And then when I did that, there was a wetsuit in the corner here that's been there for 3 months. And I was like, why haven't I cleared that wet? So and then suddenly the house is 10 times tidier because of that clarity, you know, and then just standing and just realizing that not everything, even though you may have put a lot of energy into something, if it's not going to work and you know it's not going to work, then just stop it. and or just change your job, or take the leap. I wrote a blog post about this years ago. Taking a leap into the void. You can't see what's there, but you can. If you leap, the universe will always take care of you and take you in directions you didn't ever necessarily think were possible before. But all things are possible, and all of us can achieve anything if we put our mind to it. It's really that simple. But belief is the hardest thing that people have. And the other thing is, going back to what we've spent most of this hour talking about, there's a fantastic episode of Doctor Who, one of the David Tennant ones. I think it's the one. Yeah, I think it's the Christmas Invasion. And at the end of that, he says about the Prime Minister, who brilliantly played by Penelope Wilton. Penelope Wilton, I think that's the name. And she's just fired the weapons against the aliens, against the Doctor's wishes. And because he says that's just going to create more problems for you, and you shouldn't do it. And it's genocide. What are you doing? And then he goes to her assistant and he says, I could bring this government down with 7 words. And she's like, how could you do that? How could you bring this government down? And he goes, don't you think she looks tired? Right? And it's brilliant. I think that's genius, right? And 3 weeks later, she's having to resign because everybody thinks she's not up to the job anymore, just because of those 7 words. And this is what we've got to watch. If people are saying things about other people, it's that bacteria in the petri dish, right? And all of it is designed to see, well, how resilient are you, and are you going in the right direction, and is this the right thing? And and we'll work it out, and we'll all have a laugh about it in a few years when we're past this, and me and Catherine are drinking wine in the garden.
We'll be in the pub. Yeah, exactly. There was something I really wanted to say then, but I can't think what it was. So
you were going to say, I hope they have.
I know what I was going to say. For the last 2 nights in a row, I've had dreams, and all my dreams, my husband might just wet himself laughing every morning, because it's like, where have you been this time? I've been levitating. I've been levitating my dream. But the funny thing is, I've been baby levitating. So I've been on like a lilo, like the lilos you go in the sea. And I'm on the lilo, and I'm going down all these roads. The M25 was really scary when I was levitating last night on a lilo on the M25. But there's obviously a message in there somewhere. So that's my baby levitating step. So next time I might be flying all over this room.
That's great. I mean, I've had levitation dreams my whole life, and they're like lucid dreams. And I hate it when they end, because of that feeling of flying is just amazing.
Normally I'm on the magic carpet like Aladdin, Now
you're on the lilo.
And now I'm on a lilo, so it sounds a bit of a downgrade, but I think it might be that I'm getting rid of the lovely posh carpet, and then soon I'll be on my own. I won't need either of them. But anyway, any people who analyse dreams, let me know.
They're like the training wheels are coming off.
It is like, it's like the stabilizers are coming off. It's hysterical. But yeah, no, there must be something in it. So who knows? I might go off and practice now, actually.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Mark. We shall be
Great
back
to see you
soon, no doubt. And onwards and upwards, everyone.
Well, love to your family. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.